Zach tells Kayda that he had to force himself to explore, that he never enjoyed it, and that he thought about her the entire time. To Kayda, that may have sounded like reassurance. I heard him rewriting the story. This is Love Island, and Zach and Kayda were not exclusive, so exploring was not the problem.
You came back telling me you had to force yourself to kiss her. You legit?
Okay. Do you know where I downplayed that I was intrigued by the person? All right, I hold my hands up. I wanted to explore it, but more and more as I explored it, I'm not lying. I'm trying to explain to you. I did force it. Do you think I enjoyed it? No, I swear to God, every time I did it, I thought of you.
He admitted he was intrigued and downplayed the connection, and yet he kept returning to, I forced it. That language distances him from a choice he willingly made and from the full truth. And that became one of the most interesting parts of movie night for me. Zach changed the meaning of his behavior. Also, as we continued to watch movie night, we also watched Corbin acknowledge his behavior, but seemed very impatient with his apology not being immediately accepted. And Kenzie was accused of behaving like Sincere, but I think that there is an important difference that everyone may be overlooking. And I'm diving into all of it today. Let's start with Zach and Kayda.
Yes, a cat mom.
Are you a cat dad?
I'm a cat dad. My cat Lola. Do you like Marvel? Like Spider-Man and stuff? No, don't.
Shut the...
Do you love it?
I love Marvel.
Yeah, I'm cooked.
When Zach says I'm cooked, he does not look like someone forcing himself to explore. He looks excited that they are connecting and finding common interests. And yes, this is Love Island, and Zach and Kayda were not exclusive, so exploring was not the problem. The problem was the gap between what he appeared to feel in the moment with Alana and how he later described it to Kayda. He minimized both his actions and his interests, turning I was intrigued and enjoying this connection into I forced myself, didn't enjoy it, and thought about you the whole time. That may have reassured Kayda, like I said, but it was not the fullest or the most honest version of what happened.
For some reason, we connected the most, the quickest.
It just felt right.
Yeah.
I don't know whether Zach was deliberately lying, but he gave Kayda the version that made his connection with Alana sound the least threatening. So Kayda wasn't reacting to the whole story because she didn't know the whole story. She was reacting to the version Zach felt safest telling her.
No, baby, stop. No.
It's okay, my love. No, don't cry.
I'm so mad. I'm just so mad.
No, I get it, baby.
So now Zach sees just how devastated Kayda was after seeing those postcard pictures. Let's see what he says about that.
Obviously, I apologise. That last clip, that was literally, that whole conversation was me telling her that I literally love what we've got in the villa and that I'm trying to be open as much as possible, but I'm not actually 100% feeling it.
What I wanted from Zach first was something very simple, to name what he saw in her pain. Something like, watching that, I can see how deeply hurt you were. But that was not where he went first. And that's important because repair begins with showing the other person that you understand their experience before you start explaining your own. So instead of responding first to the hurt that he had just witnessed, he moved into clarifying what happened with Alana. Kayda may have needed that explanation eventually, but I found the order upsetting. He had just watched her completely devastated, and his first response was essentially, I apologize, but let me explain. And the words I apologize are not automatically insincere, but unfortunately those words did sound like they didn't carry much emotional meaning because they were not grounded in empathy. Empathy sounds like, I am so sorry that my actions hurt you so deeply. Watching that, I can see what you went through.
I just was so respectful during the whole Casa experience, but it just sucks. Seeing it obviously just brings back everything.
No, and of course, and that's literally valid. Obviously to see it would fuck, I'd be crushed.
That is a start. Zach had said that seeing those images must have sucked for her and that he would have been crushed too. He recognizes that the situation was painful, but he still seems more connected to the logic of Kayda's pain than to what it actually felt like for her to experience that pain because of his choices.
And that was literally the biggest test, and it proved how much I liked you. And you can be annoyed at me all you want. It's like it's fair. But like I said, when I came through on my own, I'd rather be in this villa with you annoyed at me than not with you at all.
And perhaps that is something else that Kayda would want to hear. You can be annoyed at me all you want. I would rather be here with you annoyed than not be with you at all. But this is where Zach's actions will have to match his words. Kayda may not feel better simply because he explained himself or acknowledged that she was hurt. He may have to sit with her anger, her sadness, and distrust for a while without rushing her past it. That is difficult because every time her hurt shows up, he has to face the impact of what he did. But being willing to stay present in that discomfort rather than becoming defensive or impatient is often what allows a couple to move forward together.
I just find out new information. Alana left, so if she didn't leave, were you gonna fuck her? That's crazy. Because if she was there, were you gonna pick her? Yes or no?
No, I swear, obviously I wasn't.
That's just you had no other connection to pick in there, and that's what
I made my decision. I made my choice before that anyway.
No, why did I not know that until right now?
Now that is what I call a bombshell. Kayda is only finding out now that Alana was forced to leave the villa and Zach never told her. She had already endured seeing those images of them together, and now she learns that the connection did not simply end because Zach chose to walk away from it. That is selective truth-telling. Giving Kayda the parts of the story that reassure her while leaving out the part that might make her question that story is upsetting. And the problem with that is that Kayda was making decisions about Zach without having the full picture. When someone receives only selected parts of the truth, the choices they make are shaped by the information that they were given. And that is wildly unfair to Kayda.
But that's still weird to leave it out.
Because I told you what was important anyway. I told you I was going to bring you back anyway. I told you I didn't have any feelings towards her. I told you it was going to be you anyway.
Is that not odd?
I knew that before she even left.
Zach decided for Kayda what she needed to know and what supposedly didn't matter. Did he genuinely believe Alana leaving was unimportant, or did he leave it out because he knew it might upset Kayda and make her question his version of what happened? Earlier, Zach admitted that he was intrigued by Alana, but now he says he was never going to choose her. Maybe that's true, but the bigger issue is not whether he ultimately would have chosen Alana. It is that Zach decided which parts of the story Kayda was entitled to hear. If he felt so secure in choosing Kayda, why not simply tell her the whole truth and allow her to decide what mattered? Now, I will say this. Sometimes people do leave out truths, they tell half-truths because they actually fear losing the connection. But that has to be communicated to the person that you're talking to. You have to say, there's something I need to tell you, but I don't know how you're going to feel about it. And then they have to talk it through. So next I'm going to show you how they do talk about it. And what Zach says is a little bit concerning.
Firstly, I'm pissed because why was that left out?
That was irrelevant because of that day before she left.
That's not irrelevant.
Well, there it is. Why would Zach call that irrelevant? I think he may be looking only at the ending. He chose Kayda, so everything else feels unimportant to him. But Kayda isn't only trying to understand why he came back to her. She's trying to understand what was actually real between him and Alana. Alana leaving matters because it changes the context of Zach's decision. And when Zach labels that detail irrelevant, he is once again deciding what should matter to Kayda instead of allowing her to decide for herself.
I'm sorry.
But I'm actually pissed off that you didn't tell me.
I'm sorry, I should have.
Yeah.
But I was also scared.
That may be the most honest thing that Zach said. He was scared. That is probably much closer to the truth. People sometimes hide information, like I said, because they are afraid that honesty will cost them the relationship. That is a very real fear, and that fear can be understood and it can even be worked through. I have had this happen when I work with couples. But once someone has lied or told half-truths, it cannot become the other person's responsibility to sort out through every statement and decide what is truth and what is not. The person who withheld the truth has to rebuild trust by becoming consistently honest, even when the truth is uncomfortable and may lead to consequences that they were afraid of. But what makes this especially difficult for Kayda is that Zach did not simply protect himself from losing her. He controlled the information she was using to decide whether she felt safe choosing him. So now let's shift to Corbin and Kenzie. First, I want to look at how Corbin responds when Kenzie confronts him, and then we'll turn to Kenzie, because although everyone compares her to Sincere, I see an important difference.
I think that Kenzie is gonna fall over it.
I think she will, just because of the rap sheet that's been shown to me already. She probably done bust a split, started throwing that shit back.
But do you think seeing Kenzie with someone, do you think that shit was
Nah, I haven't thought about Kenzie since I've been here.
Okay, let's see how Corbin responds to Kenzie.
You know, I grew a connection. That's what we're here to do. And yeah, but I am sorry if I disrespected you or anything like that. It costs
I don't
more.
care about your damn connection. It's just how you talk about me.
Corbin immediately defends himself with, "I'm here for a connection," as though his goal excuses what he said about Kenzie. But Kenzie is not questioning whether he was allowed to explore. She is responding to the lack of care in saying he did not think about her once. Then he says, "I'm sorry if I disrespected you." The word "if" matters. It keeps him from fully acknowledging that she did feel disrespected. A more accountable response would be, "I can see that what I said was hurtful and disrespectful, and I'm sorry." Instead, Corbin is apologizing for her interpretation while still defending his behavior.
You're not
Well,
apologizing.
the connection is what happened for what made me say what I said.
But it shouldn't take a connection for you to say those things. You just shouldn't say them at all.
But that's how I was feeling. We can't apologize and
is we were
shit,
saying the
bruh.
boys were waiting.
And there it is. Corbin is impatient with Kenzie still being upset. He says, "I guess you can't apologize." But what he did not actually say was, "I'm sorry." He said, "I apologize if I disrespected you," which is conditional and emotionally distant. Now, Corbin and Kenzie are no longer together, so this is not about rebuilding their relationship. But ending a connection does not erase the need for basic accountability. Kenzie can still want him to understand why his words were hurtful. Instead, Corbin seems to believe that once he has offered the words, "I apologize," that she should stop reacting. But he does not get to decide how quickly someone processes being hurt or whether his apology was enough. Okay, let's move on to Kenzie being exposed on movie night.
Caleb chatted.
Yeah.
Like, when I was kissing him, I was thinking about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I feel like we are a match. Like,
Yeah.
I think we have a lot in common, Kenzie. And, you know, so I feel like I have more, like, in common with you than I do, like, with Corbin.
Kenzie was telling several men that she was interested in them, so I understand why the Islanders compared her to Sincere. The men were receiving mixed messages, and Kenzie should have been much clearer that she was still actively exploring multiple connections. Even if she genuinely meant what she said in each moment, she was allowing each man to believe his connection with her was more unique or secure than it actually was.
Last night when I was talking to him, it was hard for me to zone in because, like, I'm really into you.
Me too.
So I just want to point out that Caleb is hearing and seeing all of this for the first time. It is important to remember that he genuinely believed he could trust Kenzie. The Islanders often defend their choices by saying, "We're supposed to explore." And that is true, but exploring does not remove the responsibility to be honest about how many connections you are pursuing or what you are telling each person. How you explore matters. You can stay open while still being clear, so no one is making emotional decisions based on the belief that your connection with them is more exclusive or secure than it really is.
Tell you secret. I'm not telling a soul because I trust you. Me and Corbin made out.
Like,
Yeah.
Good.
Hard.
Yeah.
And we were like, we're just gonna keep this between me and you.
Yeah.
You can see that Caleb is struggling with what he is watching. And then it gets worse. He learns that Kenzie kept her kiss with Corbin from him. She kept it a secret.
It's like you put more energy and effort and little flirty stuff with me since yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to be more focused on me and you and growing our connection and getting deeper, because that's the only way that we're gonna get closer.
The problem is not simply that Kenzie was exploring, as I said, it's that she was asking Caleb to become more emotionally invested while withholding something she knew might affect whether he wanted to continue exploring with her. He could not make a fully informed choice because he did not have the full picture. Sounds familiar. We were talking about this with Zach. And this does not necessarily mean that Kenzie did not care about Caleb. Her desire to grow closer may have been genuine, but it was only part of the truth because she was not being fully transparent. And now Caleb is not only hurt by the kiss, he may be questioning whether the connection he trusted was as honest as he believed.
I'm so super attracted to you. If I met you out at a bar, I'd go up to you. And I feel like we would hit it off. I think that outside of this, our lives would collide very easily.
Yeah. You a viper.
Okay, now let me say this. What Kenzie was telling Caleb may have been genuinely true. She may really have felt like he was more her type, someone who she would be attracted to outside of Love Island. I also wonder whether Kenzie became caught up in the experience of feeling desired, which I talked about in my earlier video about her. When several people are interested in you, it can become easy to respond sincerely to the intention in each moment, without stopping to consider the promises or the expectations that you are creating. That may help explain her behavior, but it does not remove her responsibility to be clearer with the people who are becoming emotionally invested with her. Now, let's watch how Kenzie responds when all of this has been exposed, because this is where I see the comparison to Sincere starts to break down. Kenzie admits her feelings were stronger for Corbin, and then Caleb shares how that felt. So watch how she responds.
I just feel like I wasn't informed of that. Like, you didn't tell me that. And I feel like I was very blindsided, and I was getting told things that, weren't the full truth. I don't want to call it a waste of time, but I did put too much effort and energy towards you, and I wish I would have explored more.
That's fair.
Okay, let's talk about how Kenzie handled being exposed, because this is where I see an important difference between her and Sincere. I am not saying that what Kenzie did was harmless or that the Islanders were wrong to question her. She withheld information, gave mixed messages, and allowed Caleb to believe that their connection was more secure than it really was. But when Caleb told her how this affected him, she did not immediately dismiss his feelings.
That's fair.
She said, "That's fair." But Caleb pushes back even more, and she responds again in a way that is very different from Sincere. Let's watch.
I'm sorry. I did have feelings for you. They were just stronger with Corbin.
I feel like you shouldn't be telling people the words that you told me if you feel that way about Corbin.
That's valid. Yeah, that's valid.
That is valid. I should have been more clear with you.
So she says that's valid and acknowledged that she should have been clear. She still explained herself, but her explanation did not immediately replace accountability. That is the distinction for me. The behavior may look similar on the surface, but the response to being confronted was very different. Sincere tended to minimize the meaning of what he said and distance himself from the impact. Kenzie seemed more able to hear that her actions had created a different experience for Caleb than she intended. Again, that does not undo the hurt, but being able to take in someone else's perspective is where repair can begin. And her apology sounds remorseful rather than defensive. What is still missing is empathy for Caleb's experience. She does not name what it must have felt like for him to realize that their connection was not what he believed it was. Accountability says, I should have been clearer. Empathy says, I understand what my lack of clarity did to you. Both are important for real repair. Kenzie's explanation did not completely erase ownership of her part. That does not excuse what she did. It means that the capacity for change is often revealed not only by the mistakes someone makes, but by what they do when another person tells them how that mistake affected them. And that is what movie night exposed beyond the kisses, the flirting, and the hidden conversations. It showed us what each person did when they could no longer control what the other person knew. Zach tried to make his choices sound less meaningful and withheld information that might have changed how Kayda understood his decision. Corbin offered an apology but became impatient when it was not immediately accepted, and Kenzie, although she had not been fully transparent, showed more willingness to hear how her actions affected Caleb differently than she had intended. Obviously, as I've been saying, that does not make Kenzie's behavior harmless, and it does not mean that saying I'm sorry is enough. But it does show us something important. Accountability is not only admitting what happened, it is telling the whole truth, allowing the other person to decide what matters to them, and staying emotionally present when their hurt is difficult to face. We all make mistakes. We all have blind spots, and a single mistake does not define who someone is. What becomes more revealing is how a person responds once the impact is made clear. Do they minimize it, defend themselves, or become impatient? Or can they listen, take responsibility, and behave differently moving forward? That response is often what tells us whether repair and real change may actually be possible. Also, make sure to come back because I'm going to be reacting to Kenzie on Call Her Daddy. See you next time.